In today's video, we're gonna have a look at the 10 worst killer Iridescent add-ons and try to rework and buff them accordingly. If you like videos like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and also the original video idea is coming from AZHYMOVS. A link to his channel is down in the description. And now let's start with place number 10. And place number 10 is going to an Oni add-on, and the add-on is Renjiro's Bloody Glove. Blood orbs are visible to the survivors, same as they are visible to Oni. A survivor that is coming in contact with the bloody orb absorbs it, and the aura to you are revealed for 2 seconds. Originally, the Renjiro's Bloody Glove was placed at number 2, as I didn't quite believe in its value, but once I played it, let me tell you, it isn't actually as bad as it seems. The value is decent and it sometimes can help you perform good moves, and it also gives you the knowledge you sometimes really need. What I don't like though is that this information is given out at random and you can't ever choose when to get it. That's why my change to this add-on is rather simple. We just swap the way it's activated and further strip survivors of the possibility to see orbs. So in order to be granted the power to see the survivors, you need to stand inside an orb. After 1 entire second, the add-on will activate and you can see the survivors. And after leaving the orb location, you're granted a 3% has status effect for 5 seconds that will make up the time you have lost by completely standing still. This perk will give you some awesome knowledge while also giving you a new way to play Oni, which is simply what Iridescent add-ons should do anyway. The only thing that I don't like about my idea is the possible lack of counterplates. And on place number 9, we have yet another Oni add-on, and it's the Iridescent Family Quest. Missing a Demon Destroyer will cause all survivors within a 24-meter range to scream, and they therefore reveal their location to you. This add-on on its first glance doesn't seem too bad. However, experienced Oni players won't really need it as much, and further don't really need to rely on it. Looking at the situation where the family quest comes to use is mostly in a chase. When you're in that chase, there is mostly nothing you need less than knowledge of the whereabouts of other survivors, as you might want to get that guy you're chasing right now anyway. Yeah, it sometimes can give you important knowledge, but 24-meter in trade for an add-on slot is simply not worth it. As a purple though, it would actually be really nuts. For this add-on though, I had to think for quite a while. After coming up with multiple solutions, the idea of making every survivor, once you're in the blood fury exposed, seemed to be most appealing to me. Thinking about not being forced to charge a weapon before being able to insta-down a survivor seems like a good trade-off in my opinion, which especially helps weaker skill players to get some kind of leverage on this killer and to learn him easier from scratch. Because let's face it, finding out that he isn't one-shotting with his weapon all this time is the most frustrating experience from it all. I know, this doesn't elevate this add-on to insanely OP, however, I think it's a really decent choice. On place number 8, one of my favorite killers come to life. It is the Onryo with the remote control. It reveals the survivor's orb while carrying a tape in a 60-meter radius from a TV. Unless you're starting with the videotapes in the survivor's hands, this add-on seems underwhelming, although there are many ways to make good use out of the power. It mostly consists out of tunneling and simply harassing a survivor that has a tape as much as you can, and that sometimes even then consists out of pure luck. If you're not that guy who is able to pull it off this technique, because that technique is really hard to pull off, you will end up in games where almost no one cares about your TVs. They only rarely have tapes, and therefore they are rarely, and even that's a complete long shot in my opinion. Yes, like all add-ons, this can be nuts if the survivors are different, if the survivors are basically like a different breed, but against good and decent players, all the remote control goes into the trash pile. And in the game I have played for this video, the survivor's orb wasn't revealed once. I was really like having a hard time thinking about changes for her, because I would have so many ideas and changes for her base kit. So if you want to see a video about that, let me know down below in the comments. However, I have like come up with a change, and we can like discuss that in the comments whether that's actually a good one. So after teleporting to a TV, every survivor in a 24-meter radius screams. His aura is shown to the killer, therefore, for 8 seconds. TVs that have successfully made a survivor scream can't be turned off by any means for the next 60 seconds, and obviously they are not turned off by the teleportation in its own anyway. So yeah, let me know what you think about it. And on place number 7 for the weakest Iridescent Add-ons, we have the Deathslinger's Hellshire Iron. It grants the undetectable status effect for 10 seconds after a successful spear has been performed. Right here we have an add-on that on the paper seems looking strong, but in my opinion is totally underwhelming once you played it for more than one game. The ability to be undetectable for 10 seconds after a successful spear seems like an absolute game changer, but in my opinion can't ever be put to good use. At least during the games that I have played. Mostly, you just focused on either finishing their chase or carrying the survivor to the hook. That totally makes the Hellshire Iron, in my opinion, utterly useless. You know guys, there is this noise notification in the background when the Deathslinger is like aiming right at you. So I would absolutely make his power change revolving around that. So to change this add-on, I would simply increase that noise notification when someone is on line of sight by 50%. But therefore, his shots go completely silent. This allows for huge plays and even can shock survivors that you're spearing despite not even being in chase with them. This addition would definitely be one of the strongest in game. Next up we have a spirit add-on, and it's the Kintsugi Teacup. Breaking a wall or pallet immediately recharges Yamoka's hunt. The recharge time of Yamoka's hunt, by the way, never seemed like a big deal to me anyways. Sometimes the Iri add-on can be good use, however, it forces you to break pallets in weird situations, and that sometimes ruins your chase quicker than you think. In some situations, however, I can't see the value, right? I can't deny that. Nonetheless, the add-on is simply falling short to everything else Spirit has. And now let's come to the change. During Yamoka's hunt, you can't get pallet stunned anymore. However, once you would have been stunned, you replenish all of Yamoka's hunt and stay inside the phase. The survivor that has stunned you will now be exposed for 10 seconds. This seems like a big deal. So 10 seconds isn't too big, isn't too long of a period, but still, you have one mind game ready around that pallet to make it work. And I think that is simply one of the strongest additions to the game. Now, seriously, if they're at this, I seriously see that this would be one of the best things to run on Spirit. On place number 5, we have the Carburettor tuning guide for the Cannonball. This add-on consumes all charges, increases the sweep duration by 0.5%, but decreases the chainsaw movement speed by 2%. The Carburettor tuning guide is a deserved 5th spot on this list. It provides some good moments and definitely shines every now and then, but the decreasing movement speed and the fact that you need to use all chainsaw charges at once make it very bad in my opinion. Either you hit the survivor and then you are forced to further waste your charges, or you realize quickly that you won't get to the survivor and are now also forced to waste your charges before you can continue to play the game normally. Using this add-on makes little to no sense, as individual and own season chainsaw charges are far better than this. Also, by the way, I haven't altered, I'm taking into account the fact that this perk in the moment is bugged. I have some things in the background so that you can see, because the movement speed in the beginning is very, very bad at the moment. And the changes here are pretty awesome, and I really like my idea. For every downed survivor, Bubba is granted 1 token. Each token grants 0.5% additional movement speed for his next chainsaw sweep. 1 token is taken away if he is not able to hit a survivor during his chainsaw sweep or enters the tantrum by any means. You can help me with the math on this, so maybe he is granted 1 or 2% additional movement speed if he hits a survivor successfully, and if he is able to chain those hits, like for chainsaw sweep after chainsaw sweep after chainsaw sweep, he is able to get some insane movement speed for his power. Is that okay? Is that a nice idea? I think it would encourage people to play Bubba in such a different way, in my opinion. Next up on place number 4, we have the Huntress's Soldier's Puttee. It increases the movement speed to 4.6 meters per second if she has no hatches. The Soldier's Puttee is far from good. It provides some decency if played with the Iridescent Add. In all other Huntress builds, it completely lacks in usage. A good player will reload very efficiently and therefore will mostly never run out of hatches, and even if he runs out of them, the payout is a 0.2 meter per second movement speed increase, which is just way too little to make any noticeable effect whatsoever. Yes, maybe it helps you in chase, but wouldn't 5 hedges be way better? The guy I've mentioned in the beginning, AZHYMOVS, has made a very similar video like 9 months ago. In that video, he gave the idea of making the Huntress unable to reload whilst giving her 50 hatches at the beginning of the trial. This idea, by the way, was so cool that I literally wasn't able to think of anything else. Huge shout out goes out to him, as he has massively inspired me to produce content myself, and you can see it all over my channel. He's a huge inspiration to me, and if someone has a good idea, I'm allowed to mention it, boys. I am absolutely allowed to mention it, so yeah, thank you, boy. And the Bronze Medal of the Week add-ons takes the Executioner's Obsidian Goblet. It grants the undetectable status effect while standing in the Rites of Judgment trail. This Executioner add-on is undoubtedly one of the weaker ones in game. Don't get me wrong here, in some rare instances you are more than able to get value out of it. However, the counterpart and the way you need to play in order to make it work successfully is just too much to make it seem worth, in my opinion. You kind of swap the idea with this add-on of the rights, as you now do them more for yourself instead against your opponents. And also, if you run this add-on, you probably see yet again in the background, like you just camp and then you get some use out of it, and let's face it, that is not a nice playstyle. Here, I'd like to see the Pyramid Head getting a slight nerf in movement speed while performing the Rites of Judgment. For that, he is granted the undetectable status effect whenever performing this action. This not only makes him not doing it all the time, as it comes with the cost of slower movement speed, but also provides awesome opportunities to be more efficient in chase and to play the Executioner as a proper stealth killer. This is somewhat similar to what a pick is, what a pick's crouching power is. That's what I'm aiming for, and I think it's fair enough. Some people that I've talked to have stated out that the Rites of Judgment still have noises, and I can see that. However, the pick has her fucking, you know, demonic scream, I don't know how to call it, before she attacks, and you wouldn't have that with the Executioner, as he can like put his Judgment of the Damned right away without any notification whatsoever. So I think you need a small noise notification in order to actually make it somewhat better. And the silver medal takes home Hag's Waterlogged Shoe. This Iri add-on is simply one of the worst. It increases the movement speed first of all by 0.1 meters per second. Survivors suffer from the hindered status effect and a minus 9% movement speed penalty while they're in trapped trigger range. And because that's not good enough, right? It also makes you unteleportable. Wow, that is so bad. So therefore the Waterlogged Shoe is just so lovable. Like, for real, they made a fucking add-on that makes the hack not being able to teleport anymore. Which on its own is already ridiculous, but what you get from it is also, by the way, not even close to what it fucking costs you. You get a 0.1 movement increase, and the survivors that trigger your traps will now be minus 9% slower. Ultimately meaning that you're now forced to stay in close fucking proximity to the traps in order to make good use out of this power. And if you do that, you better advise running literally any other add-on that the hack has. Like, literally any other add-on. And the changes for the hack are pretty simple in my opinion. There's this add-on with Scarred Hand, which makes the Phantasm traps to have a collision with survivors. And I basically would put that onto the Iri add-on. And that's it. Then we need a purple add-on, and I know that, I know after all, that's like kind of like of a cheap trick. However, the hack thing right here, which I'm recording, is the last thing I have to record because I couldn't think of anything else until like Saturday today. Today is the release day of the video. And if you have anything, like literally, if you have any idea for the hack as an Iridescent add-on, put it down below in the comments. And the best comment I just pin, okay? The best comment gets pinned. You have time. You have 24 hours time. How about that? Okay, let's make it 72 hours, alright? Okay, cool. That's so lovely. Teamwork. I love that. Nice. And the worst thought in the entire game is the Nurse's Matchbox. It removes one blink charge, but gives you, therefore, a movement speed of 4.2 meters per second. Nurse is the strongest killer in game, and part of what makes her so strong are her add-ons. First and foremost, her range and faster recharge add-ons are one of the strongest in game and make her absolutely broken in my opinion. Why is the Matchbox now considered to be the worst of them all? As I said in the beginning, it removes one blink charge but grants you a 4.2 meter second movement speed, which is just barely higher than the Survivor's 4 meter per second movement speed, and that is just so bad. All of this in trade-off for a whole blink charge just ain't it. Play literally any of her add-ons, yeah, even the fucking meme add-ons, just play that and you'll still be better off. What I would do to change this add-on to bring it any justice is by simply granting the nurse a movement speed of 4.2 meters, like the movement speed that she would have gotten anyways. But instead of taking one blink charge away from her, I am forcing her to use her 2 blink charges. This not only will give her the advantage of the higher movement speed, or also put her at a slight disadvantage of always being forced to use her blink charges no matter what. So think about this, she hits her first blink charge, she is literally 1 millimeter behind the survivor, but is still forced to use her second blink charge. And as I've realized in the game that I have played with the Matchbox, I've actually played for 2 to 3 games with the Matchbox, because I actually found it quite enjoyable to be forced to land your first blink charge. I realized that a second charge is kind of like needed, but when you're forced to use it, I think it will actually screw with some survivors that are not playing it very often. This concludes this video. What was your favorite change and rework? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, yet again, I have a Discord, guys. Join my Discord. There's a little small community on my Discord, and they're just all so lovely. Also, I have a Patreon. If you want to support me monetarily, then you can do that right there. And with that being said, see you guys in the next video.